you gonna make any introductions or how?
Yeah, just about. I was just about
How
to
we
start
doing?
that. So I'm just gonna do a quick introduction of the Artivist Network before we introduce you, Oriana. So welcome everyone to our sixth Artivist Network webinar. We've been having these sessions over the past few months during quarantine for most of the people in the world during COVID-19. But the amazing thing is, the Artivist Network, we've managed to stay strong and had an amazing few webinars that we've successfully run over the past few weeks on Wednesdays. So who are we? We are the Artivist Network. We are a collective of art activists from around the world that work together with other environmental activists to push forward the environmental message forward and to fight for a more sustainable future, cleaner, greener, more amazing earth and all of that. So with the Artivist Network, what we usually do is we congregate around climate change conferences and create spaces for people to come together and express how they feel about climate change. Over the past year, the Artivist Network has been trying to diversify, and we've been trying to work into other projects as well, such as this webinar during this quarantine time, and also multiple trainings that we've been having regionally, globally over the past year. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Kevin to tell you more about our speaker today. But before I do that, I just want to let you all know that we have all of our recordings for our webinar series on creative artivism, on public art, designing for designers, and today's session as well, photography as direct action. All of these recordings, you can find them on our website, artivistnetwork.org/webinars. You can check out all the recordings and also all the information for future sessions on there. Also, for today's session, as I mentioned earlier, we will be recording this session. If you have any questions, please type them out in the chat box, and we will get to them at the end of today's session. So without further ado, I pass it on to Kevin to introduce our speaker for the day. So on to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Amelin. Now, from the other side of the planet, good morning from here. I think it's evening in Malaysia, where Amelin's calling from. It's with great pleasure that we get to present Oriana Eliçabe. Oriana, as you will soon see, has a long history dedicated to artistic, creative innovation and intervention. She's someone who personally I have learned so much from. So it's really exciting to have her here and get to hear her ideas, record them so we can listen to them later. And just a wonderful honor to have Oriana here. She's really doing work that I've never seen anyone else on this planet doing. In a great group process way that can, within a 2-day workshop, produce some of the most creative actions you've seen, all by letting group-led processes move ahead. Very talented. Also, just to say that I'll share in the chat now, here's a sign-up link if you want to receive our newsletters with emails about upcoming events, projects, webinars we're doing, or if you, that way we'll also fill you in each week about what's coming up this week. And Oriana is also part of the Enmedio collective, a Barcelona-based arts activism collective, which she will tell you about more. So, but without further ado, let's pass it to Oriana. Let's give her a big, silent round of applause. But Oriana, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you to you guys, and welcome everyone. Thank you to be here. And well, as Kevin says, I'm activist, I'm artivist, and I also a documentary photographer. So before I'm starting the presentation, I want to explain to you what were the significant moments that led me to know beyond photography in order to start and achieve some of the tactics and principles for a radical imagination. After this introduction, I will show you this with 5 easy lessons. I hope you enjoy it. So, okay. In the 90s, I was enthusiastic and young, very young. My desire was to tell the world about the injustice that happened. In 1994, began my collaboration with the AFP, the Agence France-Presse. What a better place to spread your pictures to the world than an international news agency, I thought at this time. In 95, the AFP opened an office in Chiapas, south of Mexico, and then sent me as a correspondent to cover the armed conflict. The day of my 23rd birthday, they put me in a plane with a curious suitcase and the style book of the agency. I just want to communicate, and communicate. That suitcase was able to scan a picture from 35 millimeters film and send it using telephone connection in less than 5 minutes. Whoa, so fast, huh? Yeah, 5 minutes, no, not seconds, minutes. This junk was an early scanner transmitter created by Hasselblad for the French press agency AFP in the late 80s. The Dixel 2000 was the name of this machine. I started to send my pictures from Chiapas to Mexico to the world with this thing. You might know the equipment weighed 10 to 12 kilograms, which in combination with the dark room became a heavy burden from photographers. Despite this, I wanted to continue communicating, but communication is not conditioned to a machine or a style or a style manual. Communications are ideas, stories, and images. And I found a true communication machine in Chiapas, Mexico, the EZLN. Even though the Zapatista Army of National Liberation, EZLN for this, its acronym in Spanish, began as an armed uprising against the Mexican state in '94, they framed its goals in actions in political and communication rather than military terms. That's very interesting. Subcomandante Marcos, the guy who's in the picture, said, "We didn't go to war to kill or be killed. We went to war in order to be heard." This guy, the ECID main spokesperson, was the Subcomandante Marcos. The ECIDLN main body is made up of mostly rural indigenous people, but includes some supporters in urban areas, as he was. I don't know, guys, if you know, maybe it's a long story, the Zapatista Army, but if you don't know it, you must Google it. To work for a news agency has its advantages, but also its limits. You learn how to work fast. When you live in Mexico and your main audience is in Europe, you're always late. Yeah, 6-hour difference. You can reach the most remote place, as long as your bosses think it deserves it, of course. But many times they scold you if you don't show what it's supposed to sell. The blood, press. It's difficult to go deep in a story when you're working in daily news. Times always plays against you. You know, I got tired of absurd captions like with this picture, for example, a woman breastfeeding her baby, meanwhile a child looked the floor after an eviction of its community. You know, it's something that you see on the picture, but you have to describe it. So you can never say like a woman breastfeeding her baby, meanwhile a child looked to the floor after a violent eviction of its community. They never give you the permission, the authorization. You are not allowed to communicate your feelings or what you see in the moment. You must to talk just to describe your picture. Ridicule. So sometimes the newspaper change the captions in order to follow its own political ideas. You know, with these pictures, some international newspaper changed the caption and said, "A policeman helps a photographer to get up." Of course, he didn't help at all. They were kicking us. So so I decided to leave out the agency in order to reach my personal work. I have, you know, I looking to have the freedom to choose where and how I publish my photos. So I left Mexico and arrived at Barcelona, Spain, as a freelancer photographer, looking for my freedom in 1999. But you know, I love Mexico, and my first assignment as an independent photographer was to come back to Mexico, Chiapas. I got two assignments to cover the Zapatista caravan to Mexico City in 2001. I was very happy. I would have a chance to work at my own pace and rhythm. At least, at least in my own rhythm. You know, I was looking for that. The first assignment was for the Woman's Magazine. It's like a Elle magazine or Vogue magazine. And the assignment was the woman role in the Zapatista caravan for this magazine, Woman's, which is its target audience is for 30 to 40-year-old woman. And I choose a writer, a feminist journalist friend. The name is Guiomar Rovira. The second assignment I had, it was for Interview magazine. And the subject was a general view about the caravan, framed with an exclusive interview with the Subcomandante Marcos. The writer was Manuel Vázquez Montalbán, a famous Spanish writer, a very famous Spanish writer. So this magazine, Interview, is famous for publishing nude and semi-nude photographs in the cover, but it also published articles on political and economical scandals and features opinion pieces by famous writers as Manuel Vázquez Montalbán. Before the caravan started, I visited the autonomous territories in Chiapas, its clinics, hospitals, women's cooperatives, school like this picture, this is the Zapatista school, among other autonomous projects. So, but when I see the publications, let's see, take a look. Here they are, the publication. Oh yeah, so happy. My articles were on the cover. But after a while, I was not that happy. You know, at the left in Woman magazine, the headline, Zapatistas Woman Speaks. Next to a stereotyped woman, skinny, quite pretty, blah, blah, blah. At the right, in the Interview magazine, next to the right boobie of this lady, you can see the headline, My Conversation with Marcos. Of course, I wouldn't publish the interview with the Zapatista woman in Interview magazine, but you know, this publication disrupted my freedom feelings. How free I am to choose between two publications. Did it make me free? You know? One more time I found a boundary, this time as an independent photographer. Art is not political when it remains in its own frame, but its mode of dissemination. It's a quote of Brian Holmes. He's an art critic, activist, and translator living in Paris, interested primarily in the intersection of art and political practice. He has an amazing blog. If you Google his name, you will find a very amazing blog about art and activism worldwide. So, you know, it's because I try, this quote is very important for me because it's not the political, it don't stay in the picture itself. The political is how do you distribute pictures, images, and story. So it's because I try to reach more different ways of dissemination of my work and my ideas. When I come back from Chiapas to Barcelona with my friends, well, I didn't say that. When I come back from when I arrived to Barcelona from Mexico, I met a nice group of people that they were mixing political and art, photography, graphic designers, activists, unions. We were all together mixing and creating stuff to welcome the World Bank, who was planning to have a huge meeting, a gathering in Barcelona. When I come back from Chiapas, they were preparing for the arrival of the World Bank in the city in 2001. So with this group, Las Agencias, it was the name, we create this project that we called Art Money. It's about photographic shields who carry out various different functions. In one hand, serve to protect the demonstrations from any act of violence. You know, we paste up the pictures, the pictures from different LGBT collectives, migrants, Zapatista women, migrant people, etc. In one side of the shield. The second function of this shield was traveling exhibitions. You know, this photograph attached on its outer surface form a traveling exhibitions that will attach the aids of the world. The photographic edit was according of the subject, invisible groups for the economic power. You know, in that time in 2000, you cannot see. Well, we were part of the global movement. So this global movement was created by anti-militaristic group, anti-racism groups, LGBTs, nations, natives, peoples, very a lot of kind of peoples. So the third function of these shields was to create new images on media. Because sometimes media put the attention in, I don't know, in a burning container, but we must to create a powerful image in order to compete with this representation of our thinkings in a different way. And the fourth function was to show in a glance what the power do. In this example, is the power of the image to pressure a target, to reimagine what is possible. You know, you can see here in a glance what the power do. The policeman hitting a migrant child in his head. You know, when you see this picture, you don't see the police is hitting a shield that is where demonstrators hold in his hand. You know, you see how policemen hit these migrant people. So, and in the 2000s, you cannot see this image of the policeman hitting people on his immigrant people on his face. But today, yes, you can see it. It's so sad. But in that time, it was another situation. So for this kind of actions, we say that get ahead of the event. You must to anticipate your target's reactions and write them into your personal script. It's not only about surprising your target, but your audience. You always have to think before you create an action in this kind of principles. So today I want to talk about photographic direct action. You know that direct actions, while associated with confrontation, direct action at its core, it's about power. Direct action means that we take collective actions to change our circumstances within handing our power to a middle person. So we act in a direct way. What you see before with the shields is one of the examples of direct actions. Now I want to introduce very shortly what is Enmedio Collective, and then we go forward to Photographic Action Workshop, what I'm coordinate in my collective here in Barcelona, and I will show you a few study cases and some of the 5 easy lessons about photographic direct action. So, well, my collective name is Enmedio. Enmedio means in Spanish, in the midst of, in the middle. All of us are professional image makers, designers, filmmakers, photographers, artists. In a way, who broke away from our usual field of work and decided to start a new space of our own. We explore the transformative potential of image and stories through a spectacular intervention using performances, photography, graphic design, and theater, using all the means within our reach. That is how we create interferences in the dominant narrative, disruptions in the official account of the world, I want to show you one action of Enmedio, which is not related with photography, but I want to show you where we are coming from with the photography as a direct action. This example is from 2012, in the middle of the crisis, this economical crisis of Spain. So in 2012, Bankia Bank declared itself bankrupt and almost immediately asked to the government of Spain for 23 billion euros, a lot of money. The government accepted, they were their friends, you know, and at the very same week, they ordered 20,000 million worth of cuts in health and education. Look at this. The budget of education, 3,000 million. Health budget, 2,000 million. And look at it at the left, 23,000 millions for the Bankia bailout. So at that moment, we realized that what they called a crisis was actually a scam. So as you can imagine, we got very, very angry. So we decided to follow an open global national call that says, take your saving out of that damn bank. It's better for it to go down than for all of us. No, we have to put our saves out of the banks. So we wait, we go, after that we went to an office of that bank and we wait hiding there until someone came to cancel her account. And then we did what you are about to see.
We don't hear sound, Oriana.
So within 24 hours, the video had over 3,000 hits and 2 more actions in Spain inspired by Enmedio's party shutdown Bankia.
300,000 hits, no? Not
yeah.
3,000.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. So Transform your anger into fun. You know, it's healthy for you and more annoying for them. So for us, the reappropriation issue, it's a very important thing. It's one of the reasons for that we don't sign the actions or the pieces, because, you know, if it's unknown actions, anonymous action, everybody can use it and reappropriate it and do it in his own way. So guys, Kevin, I don't know what time it's this conversation finished. I'm not sure because we start late. Just in order, can you let me know, please, what time I should? Because
sure, I think take your time. This is really interesting. So
okay, thank you.
Take the time you need. We've been on for 40 minutes now, and we have another 50 minutes.
Okay. Now we just 40 minutes. No, but we didn't start at 12 o'clock. We start around 20.
Yeah.
Okay, right, guys. So from Enmedio, I coordinate the Photographic Action Workshop. It's a photographic workshop applied to urban interventions where we encourage a critical attitude toward the contemporary uses of photography and its relationship with social reality. This open workshop always ends with a collective action. The photographic action is not merely an intervention in public space, neither street art. It's defined so much by its form of production, distribution, and acts by interrupting the established codes. The photographic action for us has 4 important points. Production is one of those. Our cameras are mirrors that reflect who we are and what happened to us. The goal is approach to the other. The task not only makes image, but produce images for others. The production is always a collective process. We work from empowerment and against victimization of the individuals or group represented. We don't speak with an anonymous voice. We don't speak with an omnipresent voice who knows everything. We work from our own discomfort, from self-representation. Always leaving a room for the audience to interpret what we do. Second key is the distribution. We do it, of course, in public space, private space, the city, social networks, intervention on media, intervening the discourses of the media with our images, I mean. We generate images loaded with symbolism. These powerful images open a space for our own discourse. So that is when distribution and communicate go hand in hand. The key point is communication. We can say we do a disruptive communication. Many times the message itself is what is what is not seen, you know? It's a hide. The message, the image, it doesn't see the message. You have to interpret the image. What we don't show is what we don't show directly. We contribute to the autonomous production of imaginaries, not by disseminating existing narratives, but by creating alternative ones. This is the most important and most difficult task, self-representation, creating our own story, our own explanation of what is happening, a narrative that we can live in. The fourth key is a balance between aesthetics and politics. Aesthetics, art centers, museums tend to stay away from politics, and political spaces are uninterested in aesthetics. So we found ourselves in a situation that drove us to intend a third space, Enmedio, to get into the midst of art and politics. The balance of two things, art and aesthetics, is very important, because we are interested in the aesthetics, but not for its own sake, but precisely because of the politics that lies within aesthetics. How things are told, what is shown, how it makes people feel. I'm going to show you some of our cultural models. Models that have influenced our work, sometimes without even know it. In the left side of the screen, you will see an Albert Valentine photo montage for the beginning of the 30s. And the quote is by Tristan Tzara, and says, "Every act is a cerebral revolver shot." And it's in the action, the act, where the particularity of our way of creating photography lies. To bring photograph to direct actions as a form of distribution and protest. You know that Tristan Tzara was one of the founders of the Dada movement in the early 20th century. The Dadaist photomontage, the monteurs, use scissors, pictures, and glue to express their views of modern life through images presented by media. And they really influence our work, because we do something similar, but in adapted to our times. We made this photographic action tool, this one that you will see at the right side of the screen, before we know the Albert Valentine's one, before the left one. Nothing is original, everything has been done previously. That is one of the reasons why we don't sign our work, as I told you before. Sorry, I made a mistake. So this action, this tool in the right side, is a tool from an action that we create in 2012. We named Cop d'ull, that in Catalan means a blow to the eye, and also at a glance. This project was born a few days after the demonstrator lost an eye after being hit by a rubber bullet shot from police gun in Barcelona. These balloons defy any system of control, any method of repression used by power, like surveillance cameras, rubber bullet, pepper spray. Our balloons were an army against the criminalization of protest. I don't know if you guys will use this word, criminalization, but I guess, yeah, okay. Action is our relationship with everything. This is another quote. And this is another quote that I don't know if you know where is this quote coming from, but our reference do not come only from the art world or anti-art world like the Dadas. This is another phrase with which we identify our work. And it's in this, the actions, the experience who transform people that pass through the tough workshop. It's because the action is our relationship with everything is very important. And the author of this phrase, it was this guy, you know for sure. Bruce Lee. Real action. So, you must know your cultural terrain. This is very, very, very important. You must use the cultural landscape to your advantage, always. You must be clever to fight in the metaphorical jungle of mass culture. You know, this terrain includes viral sensations, Twitter hashtags, advertising, celebrity gossip, sport spectacles, religious iconography, story, art, among others. You must, as I said before, you must be clever to fight in the metaphorical jungle of mass culture. And remember, the social change is a cultural change. So I don't know if you can open the Zoom chat, because I need your participation in the chat. Let's see if you share the same cultural terrain. You can write in the chat what you see here, guys. From left to the right, from top to bottom. Please say what you see in the image, one by one. First one. Simpson, yes, yes, Simpson. Okay, we're sharing cultural terrain. Next, the green ones. Yeah, Ninja Turtles, yeah, Ninja Turtles, yeah. We share cultural terrain. Next one. The left. South Park, yeah, South Park, yeah, right, South Park. Okay, next. Smurf, yeah. Only one knows that there is the Smurf? Okay, yeah. The next? Yeah, Asterix and Obelix. Yeah, ha ha ha. Oh, sorry, somebody's called me at the phone and I don't know how to. Oh, sorry, I lost you guys. Shit, sorry. So, Smurf, and the next one. Oh, Kevin, please send me by Telegram the ID connection of the meeting, please. I lost in my phone the connection. I cannot see the chat. Can you, Kevin?
Yep. Yeah. People are saying after Asterix and Obelix, Sesame Street, I think, is the next guess.
Epiblast, yeah. Yeah, Sesame Street. Great. The next one.
The next one.
What
Any
the people
ideas?
say?
The bottom left. Donald Duck and his nephews.
Yeah.
and the last one, the bottom right.
Who knows them?
Popeye, Lucky Luke.
Lucky Luke. Nobody knows Lucky Luke? The Daltons? What the chat say? Kevin, I cannot see it.
Yeah. Lucky Luke. Yeah, 3 people seem to know it. I have no idea what it is, but sure.
Okay. You don't know, Kevin? You don't know?
No,
okay. No. You know, guys, in some places we don't see the Daltons, or maybe you don't know Epiblast. So you must know that to disrupt the cultural terrain, you must know it very well and share it with your audience. Otherwise, it would be impossible to make an action like this. Kevin, please send. Okay, I have it. Okay, sorry guys, but I have a problem here. Let me fix it up. Yep, that. Okay, here we are again. Okay, let me, Kevin, if you can say something. Let me. Okay, great. Okay, here we are again. So, as we saw before, with this small the dynamic, we can see that it's very important to share the cultural terrain. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to connect with your audience. So now I will show you. Five easy lessons. In 5 easy lessons. What means for us photographic actions. And I will show you 5 study cases, 5 actions that we did. We are not numbers. It's a project designed for Enmedio Collective in collaboration with the PA, the Platform for People Affected by Mortgages, known as a PA for its acronym in Spanish. Spain built more houses than Germany, France, and Italy combined in 2007. That creates the biggest economic bubble in the country, in Spain, the real estate bubble. 40 years mortgages, invented the banks at that time. Can you imagine 40 years of your life paying a place to live? It's crazy. And finally, in 2011, the bubble has burst. And with it, the crisis began. And with the crisis, the evictions, the foreclosures. Since 2007 to 2012, when we start this project, there have been more than 350,000 evictions in Spain. A lot. 532 evictions every day. That means 1 eviction every 8 minutes. This is numbers, statistics, what happened that appears in media. But evictions for us are not numbers. Evictions, the victims are people with faces and lives, like him, Jaime. And this is Catalunya Caixa, the bank that want to kick him out of his house. And this is what we do together, Enmedio with the PA. We paste the faces of people affected by bank policies on the branch's facade, using images to tell personal human stories, the stories that the banks want to hide. We do it with the Platform for People Affected by Mortgages, as I said, the PA. And we show the relationship between affected and guilty in a glance. Foreclosures are often talked about in the media, but they never mention the bank's names. And it's because to see in a glance is very important, this relationship between the logo and the picture. This photographs intervention works in 2 ways. In one hand, they empower the affected people because they come to the workshop to share the personal story, they post, they see their photographs, and they paste up the pictures on the banks. And like this, we break all we break the wall of shame. They create also a presence in a public space. This is the workshop. In one hand, it's a guerrilla imaginary in the struggle between different representations of the crisis, the day-to-day battle held on the walls of the cities. Capitalism uses images and stories to lead us into this poverty, these evictions, and these sufferings. It's a great, capitalism is a great storytelling with enormous capacity to seduce. Many people took out mortgages because they believed the story that the banks and ads told us on a daily basis through discourse and also with images. Working with photographs and in collaboration with the BA, we want to reverse the dehumanized and victimized portrayals of people affected by foreclosures that media puts out. These powerful images open a space for our own discourse, intervening the page of the major newspapers. And also it gives journalists the chance to talk about things that are not allowed. And also, as I said, that the mass media will not resist too sweet candy. The portraits and stories drawn from the conversation during the workshops were converted into a collection of postcards, these postcards. These cards were designed specifically for actions like this. In less than half an hour in front of the bank door, we had hundreds of them filled out with personal message. They say things like thieves, or you're taking our life. One day you will be judged. You can, in this slide, you can see the picture from both sides. In one side, you can see the pic, the name, the age, and occupation of the person, and the logo of the bank. In the other side, in the black label, you can see the personal story. Also, in the top, you can see the name of the bank president, name and last name, and then the bank address. So when we finish when people fill out the postcard, we can send the postcard by mail. So when we read the amount of personal stories on the postcard, we decided to open a Tumblr for archiving this valuable message from the people, even if are affected or not. So you can visit this archive, and it's very interesting if you speak Spanish, of course, because the messages are in Spanish. But it's another representation of crisis. Sorry. So one more thing about this action that you must know is, let your anger don't take you to cover the logo. Please don't damage it. You must decor it. Corporations and banks have much bigger PR budgets. Through well-planned creative interventions, however, you can refocus things and highlight a different side of story. So the lesson one is subvert the signs instead of destroying them. It's much more funny, and for sure, you will approach easily to your audience. And it's more annoying for them all as well. This principle refers to a phrase of Ronald Barthes, but it always reminds me of principle of the Kung Fu, as you know, martial arts. Use the strength of the enemy to act against them. Sometimes people ask, where do you get the money for this project? So exhibition like this, you know, how much do you own? It was an exhibition that we present this action as a piece of art with the portrait, videos, and actions in the banks. You know, the video with the action of the banks, a diagram, and also the postcard. And the visitors of the postcard filled out the postcards, and when the exhibitions gone, the postcards was sent by post by sent to Spain bank's office. So it was other way to press in an international press and to widen your audience to cultural audience. So the museum sent them back to Spain. That's great. And in the other hand, they pay for the postcards. So it was quite good for us because we had a free postcards to make these actions. We also showed this project in this exhibition in the Victoria and Albert Museum, in the exhibition named Disobedient Objects in 2014. And this exhibition showed the powerful role of objects in movements for social change. Here you can see the diagram with the whole information of the crisis in Spain, the evictions, etc. So this project shows different ways of dissemination as direct actions in banks. Of course, the banks were open when we made these actions. Intervention in media with the press articles, collaborative photo in the workshops, and also the participatorial thing with the people fill out the postcards. And also another way was the archive in the Tumblr and the exhibition. So you see 5 different ways to disseminate the project, the ideas, and the critical situation that we were living at that time in Spain. So we did this project with the Enmedio collective in collaboration with PAP, but now I will show you 4 more case studies. All of them are some of them are coming from intensive workshops, a weekend workshops where the participants, they don't know each other and come from different fields such as photography, activism, sociology, etc. So let's see the next one. I will be fast in order to arrive. This is the second. So in Europa, at the very same time that Spanish youth take low-cost planes to leave the country because of the high rate of unemployment, Spain spent 11 million euros on a contract with Air Europa to deport people without their resident permit or on their planes. To work on this paradox, we create a new class of fly, deportation class of Air Europa. Air Europa deportation class offers you a smooth, worry-free immigration experience, even if the person behind you is an undocumented migrant being deported. We paste these photos of people banded on the back of the seat of a viewpoint next to the beach, where you can see the planes leaving and landing from Barcelona El Prat airport, as well as to contemplate the Mediterranean Sea. We cannot forget the Mediterranean, it's a border as well as huge cemetery of those people who try to arrive to El Dorado. We cannot forget Mediterranean, it's a border as well as a huge cemetery, as I said before. So that was the right place to put this picture, this intervention. So When people sit down, they complete with their bodies the meaning of this intervention. In a nice way, we draw a plain shape in order to keep the attention of the passerby.
Oriana, it sounds like your sound has gotten a little bit weird. I don't know if... Does anyone else get that?
Yep, I'm also hearing that.
Cool, try talking again.
Yeah, same here.
So...
Better. Yeah, now it's better.
What do you suggest? I coming back or go back?
No, it's good as it is now. It was just a few words. Keep going.
Okay. In a naive way, I said that we draw a plain shape in order to keep the attention of the passerby, because this place has two levels, one at the same level of the ocean, well, the sea, the Mediterranean Sea, and other upper, where the people walk. So many people start to take pictures of the intervention and they upload it in the social media. We also include a QR code to visit the deportation class webpage. In this website, you can find the whole information of illegal deportation and some funny stories about deportation class of Air Europa, as we are expanding our market to explore young local talent, young people at competitive price. So take advantage of this special deportation class ticket sale, an immigrant and an immigrant for a price of one. You know, that's the picture that we were waiting for, a young Spanish woman sitting with a undocumented people being an illegal deportation, you know. So the lesson 2 is make the invisible visible. If you can't see it, if you can't see it, you can change it. You know, many things are invisible to the mainstream. So if you make it visible, it will be easy to change the reality. Okay, this is the next lesson. The City Hall of Barcelona removed the Marquis of Comillas sculpture under slavery allegations. This symbolic act was the result after a campaign denouncing that the involvement of Marquis of Comillas in the slave trade in the 19th century. You must know that comillas in Spanish means quotation marks. So is Marquis of Comillas in English literally is Marquis of quotation marks, which is quite funny. So we designed an action under the name Slavery Without Quotes. The spirit is still here. You can see. I held this workshop for an NGO for a young NGO activist, SOS Racism, and with the collaboration of Rido Photo Collective. In the center of this image, you can see the ghost, the spirit of Marqués de Comillas, Marquis of quotation marks. So we interviewed 3 people working under slavery conditions today, slavery without quotes. And we interview and we photograph them. We use some of those quotes for the intervention of the monument of Marqués de Comillas. This quote says, "In the last job I was treated as a slave. I had no rights. If I say something, they would fire me." it's people working with no papers here in terrible conditions as slavery. So we pasted out the portraits of David, Sidi, and Sori in, on the monument's stairs. Of course, the action has not permission and it must be so quick. We wanted to show the slavery of the 21st century on the city, on the countryside, in the factories, etc. And the location is in the main center of Barcelona. So we keep the attention of tourists, citizens, and they take pictures, they go to the QR in order to go to the website to get the whole information, because we all only photographed 3 peoples and 3 men, because we didn't have much more time because it was a current workshop. So we just find 3 people, but we have more people in the website that we put later about that they are living a slavery situations here in Spain, like the women who work in hotels and many others. But so the third lesson from today is show, don't tell. Use an image rather than falling into preaching. You know, you don't have to tell your audience what you think. So it's very important. I have 2 more examples, Kevin, and we are on time. Can I do it?
Go for it. Yeah, we've got 15 minutes.
Okay.
And we can go a little over too, if people want to stick around.
Are you guys there? Yeah. Okay. So in August 2013, a group of people from South of Africa, citizens, arrived to Hamburg after traveling from Lampedusa, Italy. They were about 300 and they didn't have work or resident permits. We were talking about Hamburg, Germany. Same year, we landed with the TAF workshop in Hamburg as well, in Germany. And the night before our arrival, the police had carried out several raids around the church where they were living, trying to identify as many of them as possible and fast-track the deportation process. We got down to work. We Googled refugees, and this picture was the first. This is the typical representation of migrants in mass media. We fight to reverse this dehumanized and victim-like portrayals of migrants. We are people with desires, our needs, as any others. We always have to remember this. So we want to connect with these people in Hamburg who don't share our idea, the refugee idea. We wonder what the citizens of Hamburg are proud of. We analyzed the Hamburg brand name, and the Beatles are part of it. They began his career there in Hamburg, and in the side you see the Beatles Museum in Hamburg. Here is the Beetleplatz in Hamburg. This Beetleplatz is in the San Pauli neighborhood, where the same neighborhood that the raids were made. Sorry. You must know that in the 60s, the Beatles landed in Hamburg, and they didn't have work or residence permit. They entered the country pretending to be students, and that's how the boys from Liverpool began their music career. Play at the Indra Gate Gathering and other venues in San Pauli. So we chose the Beatles characters to talk our story. And we wrote a story behind the action, of course. And the story said like this: we arrived here by boat. At first, people look at us as strangely because we looked different. We thought we were criminals. Parents worried about their kids. We were broke. We were also homeless. We slept wherever we could. But luckily, we weren't alone. We were always people who believe in us. We are Paul, George, John, and Ringo. In Hamburg, we began our international career, our new life. Lord Mayor Schulz, would you have deported the Beatles too? So against this backdrop, we decided to work on a photographic campaign that gives the refugee an identity that was hard to capture. We pasted the posters in the streets of San Pauli neighborhood, near to the venue where the Beatles used to play, very close to the church where the refugees were living, on the Große Freiheit, that means Great Liberty Street. This street, the street with the most appropriate name for this project. So they were stuck in the richest neighborhoods on Hamburg as well. And 2 weeks later, the Beatles of Lampedusa joined another 50,000 people on the streets to protest against the deportations and claims the right for refugees. On the same day, our photographic works featuring the face of these new Beatles were everywhere. Banners on the demonstrations, on posters, on the walls, on different parts of the city. And they inspired by the previous action, and they print these postcards. These postcards sent to the mayor, of course, to the mayor who has the right to decide the critical situation of these people from other countries. So the lesson 4 is think narratively. The best response to a powerful enemy is a powerful story. Thank you. You love the postcard, thanks. So the last one, guys. I hope you are not boring. The last one. In this case, the invitation came from Stop Eviction Guipúzcoa in the Basque Country in Spain, with one condition: the workshop must work about the right to housing. And we say, of course, yes, we love that issue. A few days early, the media had early of the workshop, the media had reported that the company was going to build a 4-star hotel on this site, another hotel in the Teatro of Bellas Artes, the theater of fine art, who is in the slide. And also this building had been closed for over 30 years. This company, the group SADE, which is the name of the group, want to build a 4-star hotel on the site. Another hotel, another luxury hotel in a small city. So, can you hear me? Okay, but you don't see okay.
Yes.
So we decide to create a hoax. Instead of a hotel, Cuchabank, a Basque bank, was going to recondition the building and fit it out to house the families that it had been already evicted from their homes. So it was a small lie, but a big truth behind. So we create an entire fake campaign in purest guerrilla communication style. 2 big posters, 3 by 2 meters, and we pasted onto the facade of the Teatro Bellas Artes, announced that Bank has changed its mind about the evictions. So now here in the video, you see how we are pasting, because we used color prints, it looks like a real advertising. The images we chose for these posters was a young woman who resembled Princess Leia carrying the Darth Vader helmet under her arm, a perfect match for the slogan, "Access to housing is not science fiction." Coming soon, 90 homes for evicted families. San Sebastian is a small city, and it didn't take long for our hoax to reach thousands of people. But we also took a picture and created a hashtag, and the hashtag Aupa Cucha, that means something like "thanks Cucha." And we used this hashtag to spread the campaign photos online on Twitter, along with words of praise and compliment for Cucha banks. The net was quickly response. "I can't believe it, a bank had done this. Cucha Social do some real social work at least," the people said. "The idea of Cucha Bank supporting evicted family is science fiction. Cucha, you're awesome." It was quite funny. From love one moment to hate the next. The idea of Cucha Bank supporting evicted family is science fiction. After an hour, Cucha banks had no choice but to respond and deny the authorships of the poster campaign, saying, the rumors are not true. Cucha banks will not rehabilitate the Bellas Artes building." That was what we were expecting. The conflicts in their Twitter home. The net started to ask for the fate of evicted families. So that was where we're expecting with this action. So the lesson 5 and the last one is the real actions is your target reaction. You must to anticipate your target reactions and write them into your personal script. So you guys, we almost end evil. Thank you very much. I hope it was not that long for you. I'm open for question if there is time. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you so much, Oriana. And maybe if you want to stop sharing your screen, you can come back and join us. Really, thank you so much. That both in terms of theory behind guerrilla communication, as well as some of these amazing tactics for actually using photography to tell stories. There were a few questions that arise from the chat already.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we can invite people to come off of mute. I think the first one, Amlin, I believe that was from you. And it was around this idea of sort of identifying cultural terrain and the question around that. But Amlin, if you want to come off and ask it yourself.
Yeah, so my question was in relation, so when we were playing that little game earlier about identifying these cultural things that we all can recognize, how do we do that when it comes to our own cultures or like cultures that are not so, universal, like especially, for example, myself as a Malaysian, not a lot of people know about our Malaysian culture. But when we do these kind of like, for example, like what you were mentioning about all these different narratives and these different common stories, it's very easy to do that in my region, in Malaysia, in Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia. When we do common themes, people would understand that. But how do we translate that to a bigger audience that like, not everyone is going to know what is Kampung Boy. Like in my region, in this side of the world, Southeast Asia, a lot of people in different countries know the comic Kampung Boy. So how do we translate that to a bigger audience without having to change the culture in that sense, or what they're trying to share?
Well, maybe sharing using a international comic is, you know, when we did I think that the perfect answer is the action of that we did in Hamburg. You know, I don't share my cultural terrain with the Germany people. I'm living in Spain. I'm from Argentina, so. We arrived to this action of the Beatles of Lampedusa because the local people knew that the Beatles began their career there. You know, that action, when I show it here in Spain, I have to explain to the people that the Beatles began their career there. But you know, every single people on the world, I guess, knows the Beatles. So what we have to do, what we are doing when we make internationals or workshops or actions is to hear local people and to work with them in order to adapt ideas in the local situation, because you cannot arrive like you know, like an alien there. They say, okay, this is my action. Yeah, but we don't share the cultural terrain, because I think to share the cultural terrain is the main principle for this kind of actions. Because if you don't share the cultural terrain with the audience, you cannot communicate nothing at all. I don't know if I answer well. If you want to participate, you guys, any?
Well, let's take the next question. Actually,
Yeah.
Okello had a question as well, kind of relating to this, of how can this be used in marginalized communities, such as refugee camps, to confront the sense of hopelessness. But Okello, do you want to come off mute and ask your question yourself?
Yeah, it's a little bit windy here. I don't know if you guys are hearing me clearly.
Yeah.
So my question was, you know, how can this method be used in a marginalized communities like, you know, the refugee camps, which are often filled with hopelessness, because that's the community I came from. That's where I grew up. And, you know, to make it worse, we are multinational, you know, a community. We have a lot of people coming from different places. We have people coming as far as Pakistan and Syria as well, West Africa, you know, almost across the entire Africa. So I was like, how can this method be applicable here? Because we also have organizations that do not just allow any form of communication to happen. Say, for example, sharing pictures of sensitive information, like, you know, people committing suicide because of hopelessness, people, you know, trying to share stories of depression, trying to put spotlight to the dark side of what the organizations are actually doing here. And of course, sometimes trying to share the truth, because not everybody wants the truth of whatever they're doing to come into the spotlight. So my biggest question is, how can this be applicable to such a community?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Okay, long, good question. Well, I think we can use it in every country, in every kind of situation. You always must, as I said before, you must always know where you are doing this. This is the important thing. And I mentioned in my first lesson that the empowerment of the people through the workshop is one of the main issues of this kind of work, because in a refugee camp you need this kind of empowerment, because as you say, people commit suicide, people are depressed, people are angry, they need a lot of things. Timeless is a, yeah, you don't know how to do with your time, you know, you're trapped in a place and where you cannot live, or you can live out but you are not welcome. So to have these collective workshops helps in order to think together how to confront this reality. And sometimes, even in hard situations, using humor or popular culture is very useful in order to empower people, in order to see your particular and also the common conflict problems from other side. No? So we did projects with in camps, and we tried to talk about our problems. Well, the action with the Beatles of Lampedusa, they were not, it was not a refugee camp, but it was people in a very heavy situation. They had racism, racist rates. You know, every color people who walk next to the church, they were arrested because they probably were, you know, sans papier, people without papers. So they were a very difficult situation. So we decided to work with them and talk with them about how was their situation, their travel, they travel by boat, and how happened in the travel from Italy to Germany. And then we tried to show, I don't know, creative tools in order to communicate in a different way. Because in this example, for when we were working with the refugees and also with activists from Hamburg, when we Google and I show the picture that we Google of the topic of a migrant, of refugee people, it's always the same. And I think that people, the same representation in media, I think that the people, even if they are in a hard situation, they don't have to lose their focus, their illusion, their desires. And I think it's our responsibility to remember that they are what are trying to do, no? Like, I mean, empowerment. I mean empowerment, and empowerment is to talk about our own common problems, the reality, and also the art that we are doing, and try to connect from other way to and to try to connect with them and with the audience in another form, with another way, in order to don't say the people what they have to think, but what to think for themselves. I don't know if I explain well my action, but I think that maybe in a refugee camp you can work with them in all, yeah, with the same methods, you know. So I think that the cultural, the popular culture is very useful, because has a lot, we share with a lot of people, even a class, a religion, you know, different countries. So, and sometimes it's full of humor, and humor used to learn how to laugh about our own pain. If you if you can to laugh about your own pain, you can laugh about everything. You can laugh about politicians, you can laugh about laws, you can laugh about constitutions, about everything. So the first thing I think is to try to think your pain, and then to try to convert this pain in a creative and sometimes humoristic way, in order to break out the shame, the social shame, you know, and to try to see your own pain from another place, to live out from the victim place, and to try to empower yourself. I don't know if I answer, but I don't know, Okelo, if it's enough for you, but
yeah, sure, that's enough. That's cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Oriana. And I think on that note, around, I think one of the main takeaways is this of empowerment. And I think all of the examples you've shown have been a great way of how we're transforming narratives of activism from one of victimization towards one of empowerment. Unless someone has sort of a very question they really want to ask, now is your moment. Otherwise, I think we've been here. We're just a little bit over time. So we can probably wrap it up here. But would especially really like to give a huge thank you to you, Oriana. I've seen a lot of your talks now, and every time I learn so much. So really, thank you very much. We'll be sharing the video of this on our website that we can share the link in the chat again. So definitely share it with your friends. You know, it's not the same live experience, but they can still learn from it as well. And we'll be offering this same presentation this Friday in Spanish. If you would like to stay in touch with what we're doing, we're having almost weekly webinars now. Definitely check out the link that Amun's just placed into the chat. And there you can sign up for our newsletter, and we'll tell you about the other things we're having going. And in the future, we hope to offer on our website a number of resources that can sort of help groups think through some of these ideas that Oriana was presenting, of how to arrive from this idea of we want to do something around that empowers people but shines a light on this, offering some sort of processes by which people can approach that kind of work. So stay tuned, and all of that will be coming soon. Yeah, a great thank you to Oriana once again. Also, I would just invite before we go, the folks that are still on the call, if you want to just say where you're calling in from into the chat. It's always nice for us to see just where everyone's coming from. Great. I don't know. I'm forgetting something. Amelin, right?
No, I think you've pretty much covered everything. Again, thank you so much, Oriana. That was a very exciting session. I liked a lot of what you had to show us today. Also, for everyone else, like Kevin mentioned, all this information you can find on our website. And again, thank you so much for joining in. And if you want to find out more updates, please do check out our website, sign up on the sign-on sheet, and we will send you all the updates about projects we're up to, what we're getting ourselves involved with, and how you can maybe support other groups that are around that we're working with as well. So with that, I guess, thank you so much, everyone. And it's amazing that we have quite a diverse group of people: Portugal, Germany. Where's the Kakuma refugee camp, if you don't mind me asking, Okelo?
It's in the northern part of Kenya, the extreme northern part.
Ah, interesting.
Okelo, I will give.
Yes.
I will send you a link for all of you guys, of course, but especially for Okelo. When we have a publication in Enmedio that the name is Fence War, and it's talk about creative activism. We talk a lot about refugee camps and creative ways to do actions, and I don't know, maybe it works for inspiration for you guys there. Let me put it on the chat.
Yeah.
Great, and again, thank you from Romania, Budapest, Portugal, Malaysia. It's really exciting. And the next step with the Artivist Network will be looking at how actually we can be collaborating internationally, and how the fact of having 8 people from 8 different countries with similar interests on a call together can lead to future actions. Cool. And when we send out the next newsletter, we can include the link that Oriana has mentioned to Mundo Vaya, to make sure that everyone gets it as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that maybe you can put it on the web, because I just found the Spanish ones and I want to share you guys the English version, and I cannot find it right now.
Cool. No, we'll make sure it gets out. Thank you so much, Oriana. Thank you, everybody. If you want to practice Spanish, see you on Friday. Otherwise, stay tuned for our next webinar.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you to stay here with me, to listen for a lot of time. And okay, see you soon. Good luck, okay, hello there.
Bye,
Be creative.
everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.